Since the dawn of civilization, human beings have sought a greater meaning for existence. The desire to understand what lies beyond matter, the yearning for answers about life, death, and what lies beyond, has always driven us to look to the heavens in search of something or someone higher. However, over the centuries, this sincere search for God has been shaped, distorted, and in many cases captured by human systems that have appropriated faith to transform it into an instrument of control. Thus was born organized religion, a structure created not to bring humanity closer to God, but often to distance it from Him. Religion, in its institutionalized form, promised paths to the divine, but delivered fear, guilt, oppression, and separation. It placed intermediaries between the Creator and the creature. It established rules, dogmas, rituals, and penances that instead of liberating, imprison. It replaced the freedom of the spirit with attachments to the letter. They exchanged God's unconditional love for empty religious performances. People who sincerely seek God often find only judgments, moral demands, and lifeless rules. Religion says you must earn God's love. The true God says, I loved you even before you knew who I am. For centuries, religion has allied itself with power, politics, and greed. Crusades, holy wars, inquisitions, persecutions, all done in the name of God, but under the banner of religion. Men wearing sacred robes, holding sacred books, committing atrocities in the name of a God who would never have sent them to do so. Religion has killed more than it has saved. It has condemned more than it has liberated. It has hidden more than it has revealed. It has created imposing temples, but emptied hearts. And humanity, confused and wounded, has come to associate the image of God with the tyranny of the men who represent Him. The greatest evil of religion is this: making people believe that God is as religion describes Him, an angry, impatient, punitive God, conditioned, a distant, bureaucratic God who only manifests Himself through certain liturgies on specific days and times within buildings with their own rules. But this is not the God of life, of creation, of spiritual essence. This is the God that religion created and imposed. Religion taught us to fear God, not to love Him. It taught that salvation lies in following a set of rites and belonging to an institution, when in reality, salvation is a reconnection with truth, with grace, with the divine presence that dwells within us. Religion distances human beings from God because it teaches them to trust in structure, not in essence, to seek human approval, not spiritual communion, to repeat memorized words without feeling the weight of truth, to clothe themselves in outward holiness without inner transformation. It sells the idea that truth belongs to the few, that there is a single, exclusive path, when Christ Himself came to tear the veil of separation and declare that everyone, absolutely everyone, has access to the Father, without the need for mediators, without having to pay, without having to conform to human standards. How many people have been hurt by religion? How many have abandoned their faith not because they disbelieved in God, but because they could no longer bear the weight of religious hypocrisy? How many young people have been expelled from communities because they thought differently? How many poor people have been excluded because they could not contribute tithes? How many marginalized people have been called impure? How many sincere seekers of truth have been silenced, ignored, cursed? Religion, when used incorrectly, becomes the greatest obstacle between humanity and God. But there is a greater truth that cannot be ignored. God is not bound by religion. He does not fit within temples, is not limited to rituals, does not depend on ecclesiastical offices to act. God is greater. He is present in the simplicity of a gaze, in the sincerity of a solitary prayer, in the silence of those who suffer, and in the humility of those who seek. He is present in the deserts of the soul, in unanswered questions, in unexpected encounters. He is present wherever there is love, justice, compassion, and truth. He needs no titles, no dogmas, no traditions. He is simply God. And that is why it is urgent to reclaim pure spirituality, free from religious constraints. We must return to the essence, rediscover that God does not demand perfection, but surrender, that He does not want followers of rituals, but conscious children, that He is not interested in the number of services we attend, but in how we treat others. True faith does not isolate, it brings together. It does not condemn, it welcomes. It does not manipulate, it liberates. We must break from the religion that imprisons and embrace the faith that transforms, because God never wanted to create a religion. He wanted to restore a relationship. A religion often begins with the intention of connecting man to the divine. Over time, it tends to evolve into a system built on human rules, rigid structures, and cultural traditions that may have little or nothing to do with the true nature of God. When the living relationship with the Creator is replaced by mechanical repetition, people begin to associate spirituality with obligation rather than love. They go through the motions, attending services, repeating prayers, following rituals, not because they feel the presence of God, but because they've been told that not doing so would bring guilt, punishment, or exclusion. Fear becomes the foundation of belief, and this fear replaces the freedom and joy that should come with knowing God personally. Religious institutions often impose intermediaries between the individual and God, elevating human leaders, hierarchies, or saints to roles never intended for them. This fosters dependence on men rather than a direct, intimate relationship with the Lord. People stop reading the scriptures for themselves. They stop seeking God in personal prayer and instead rely solely on interpretations given from a pulpit. This dependence creates a spiritual laziness, a reluctance to ask deep questions or to challenge traditions that may contradict the very words of Christ. Worse still, religious institutions often thrive on control. It shapes behavior through shame and conformity, creating a culture where honesty is punished and appearances are everything. People learn to hide their struggles, wear spiritual masks, and pretend to be whole when deep inside they are lost, confused, or hurting. The church becomes a theater of perfection, not a hospital for the broken. This hypocrisy not only distances people from one another, but it leads many to walk away from faith entirely, not because God failed them, but because religion misrepresented Him. Power is another seductive force in religious systems. Over time, leaders may begin to see themselves as spiritual authorities with divine endorsement, immune to